Think fast. What are the worst seats on planes? Why do flight attendants never eat in the cabin, and where do they sleep during the long flights? Stay tuned to find out. Airlines like to say their planes are pristine, sleek, and hygienic vehicles. In reality, they're about as clean as a movie theater floor. Every second an airplane isn't in the air, it isn't making money. As such, airlines really want to minimize their plane's ground time and maximize their number of flights. Ryanair can turn around short-haul flights in as little as 25 minutes, and Southwest in as little as 35, which is crazy fast. But it's not much time to clean the plane, often leaving staff with just 15 minutes of cleaning time before passengers board. Cabin cleaners were typically given just 5 to 15 minutes per plane to change all trash bags, wipe down surfaces, and clean bathrooms before the next boarding. It was physically impossible to sanitize everything properly, they admit. We'd focus on visible messes and bathrooms first, then whatever else we could manage in the time left. Some days with tight turnarounds, we'd barely have time to empty the trash before passengers were boarding again. According to flight attendants, in economy class, freshly washed blankets are only provided to the first flight of the day. After that, they're just folded and reused, no matter how they've been used previously. Even worse, those tray tables might only be wiped down once a day, usually when the plane remains grounded overnight. Yeah, think twice before pouring those pretzels straight onto the tray table, as passengers have been caught changing baby diapers on them. One flight attendant told The Guardian she had to use passenger blankets to clean stains, as they weren't given enough time or supplies to clean properly, and had even used them on human feces. As recently as 2023, Air Canada came under fire for forcing passengers to sit on seats that were still covered in vomit from the previous flight. To mask the smell, flight attendants placed coffee grounds in the seat pouch and sprayed perfume. If surfaces can't be trusted, at least you can turn on the overhead fan and enjoy a nice cool breeze. Well, I'd hold off, unless you want gunk blown directly in your face. In 2015, flight data website Travel Math found that those vents had a greater concentration of bacteria than an airplane's seatbelt buckles, airport bathroom locks, and even the airplane's toilet flush button. So if you want to cool off on an airplane, your best bet is to just stay hydrated. Except even the water is dirty. Back in 2003, the EPA studied tap water from over 300 planes and found that 15% contained the harmful bacteria coliform, which is typically found in feces. That same water is often used to make the onboard tea and coffee, by the way. While disgusting, it's also hardly surprising as the water tanks in planes are irregularly cleaned. So if you want to stay clean on an airplane, you just need to remember, don't drink the water, touch anything, or breathe. Simple. You might think flight attendants have it easy, just serving drinks and telling you to fasten your seatbelts, but they're bound by an insane number of rules that passengers never see. For instance, did you know flight attendants aren't allowed to wear heavy perfumes at work? Even if it's their favorite signature scent, they have to keep it light to avoid triggering allergies in the confined cabin. Speaking of smells, have you ever spotted a flight attendant eating a sandwich or drinking some soda in the cabin? No? That's because they aren't allowed to be eating or drinking in front of passengers. They can only do it in the galley or in special areas where you won't see them. Even when the cabin is full of noisy passengers, crying babies and barking dogs, cabin crew members can't pop in earplugs or put on headphones. Your safety is their #1 priority, so they must be able to hear emergency signals, lavatory calls, and passenger call bells at all times. The presentation rules are equally strict. Female crew members can't go barefaced. They're expected to wear makeup. Nothing too crazy, but some lip color is usually a must. Their nails have to be neat and clean, ideally short with clear or red polish. No neon colors allowed. If their hair is below the shoulders, it must be worn in a bun or ponytail. No top knots, massive waves, crazy volume, dreadlocks, mohawks, cornrows, or unnatural colors like pink or purple. Even visible roots in a different color aren't allowed. Male crew members face similar restrictions. Beard and mustache length is strictly regulated, no fancy styles, just close trimming. Some airlines only allow beards if they help hide facial imperfections. And of course, no visible hair from nostrils, ears, or underarms. And here's another bizarre rule. Flight attendants aren't allowed to slouch. And at some airlines, they can't even put their hands in pockets or cross their arms while in uniform. Some airlines even have catwalks in their training centers where flight attendants practice their supermodel walk. While you might think the pilots are the most essential people on the plane, I reckon flight attendants deserve more praise. They bring us our food, show us to our seats, are in charge of our safety, and ask the guy sitting in front of us to raise his seat back up when we can't summon the courage to. Considering they have such important roles, airlines must take good care of them, right? Wrong. Shockingly, for all the time they spend getting the plane ready and helping everyone on board, flight attendants are only actually paid once the plane door shuts, marking the beginning of their official shift. Despite this, flight attendants are still expected to arrive early, greet passengers, check documents, store bags, explain emergency landing procedure, ensure the plane is stocked with food and drink, bid farewell to passengers, and numerous other responsibilities. All of which is unpaid labor. It's not uncommon for flight attendants to end up working 4 to 6 uncompensated hours every day. Still, flight attendants do get their own secret beds and rest area on long-haul flights. But where? Airplanes are cramped enough as it is. Where could they be hiding a whole bedroom? Well, they're usually above overhead baggage storage. So while you're napping in your seat, they're napping in the hollows above you, which feels incredibly unnerving. They need these naps too, as some flight attendants claim they're heavily discouraged from slouching while in uniform. Imagine working a 10-hour flight, sleeping on a flat-pack bed, and not even being allowed to rest your shoulders. Well, they may not be comfortable, but they're at least stylish, right? Those are some snappy uniforms. But looking good comes with a heavy price. In 2020, over 500 Delta flight attendants filed a lawsuit against clothing manufacturer Lands' End, who supplied their new Passport Plum uniforms. The lawsuit claimed the uniforms were made from cheap materials that caused breathing issues, hives, and hair loss. Oh, and they also dyed the flight attendants' sheets purple, sarcastically, so clearly only the finest materials were used. As of the time of writing, that case is still pending. However, in November of 2023, a jury ruled in favor of a different group of flight attendants from American Airlines, claiming their uniforms were causing rashes, headaches, and breathing problems. Yeesh, who would have guessed the most dangerous part of flying could be getting dressed in the morning? Now, I know you've been waiting for this question. What are the worst seats on planes? I'm willing to bet you said middle seats, and I can't blame you. Nobody wants to be sat stuck between two strangers. You may have also said seats towards the back of the plane, as it isn't nice sitting right next to the bathroom. And in my experience, these seats feel bumpier, so a middle seat at the back of a busy plane, that's hell. But if you ever find yourself stuck with this seat, don't switch. In 2007, Popular Mechanics conducted an analysis on the National Transportation Safety Board's data on airline crashes that resulted in at least a single fatality and survivor. Remember that while your odds of ever being in a plane crash are low, about 1 in 1.2 million, your odds of perishing in a plane crash are even lower at 1 in 11 million. Anyway, Popular Mechanics looked at every deadly air crash in the United States between 1971 and 2007, and what they found was shocking. It seems that when it comes to survival, all seats aren't created equal. They found that those towards the front of the plane had only a 49% chance of survival, those in the middle had a 56% chance of survival, and those towards the back had a much higher 69% chance of survival. Nice. And the safest seats of all? Well, those were the middle seats towards the back of the plane with a 72% chance survival rate. That's right, the seats we think are the worst are actually the safest. Go figure out. It's easy to see people who work in certain professions as unshakable superhumans, doctors, firefighters, YouTubers. Another is the noble pilot. They fly multi-million-dollar equipment and are responsible for the safety of hundreds of people. Surely only the most calm, mature, and capable people become pilots. Nope. Like in all professions, sometimes pilots and co-pilots don't get along. This is why airlines have a secret system they try not to let passengers know about, the no-pair system. Every captain, first and second officer, have a list of names that connect to their carrier's scheduling system. They can then add the names of anyone they don't get along with to their personal list, lowering the odds they'll fly together. Makes sense. I wouldn't want to be stuck in a tiny room with my intern number 442. However, the do not pair list isn't perfect. In 2022, on an Air France flight heading from Geneva to Paris, two pilots had a serious disagreement shortly after takeoff. While the two men were supposed to be flying the plane, they were instead grabbing each other's collars, with one of them reportedly clocking the other. The commotion caught the attention of a member of the cabin crew, who spent the rest of the flight in the cockpit having to monitor them. If only passengers had do not pair lists they could put their pilots on. If you're anything like me, you never leave the house without your essentials. I can rest assured that baggage handlers the world over take their jobs seriously and handle baggage with the utmost care. And before you get too hopeful, this violent approach to baggage handling isn't unique. The internet is full of clips like this. More than just being the norm though, tossing bags around like this might be the only way these guys can do their job. The common Boeing 747 can seat 416 passengers in a 3-class configuration. Let's assume that only half those passengers check any baggage, and that they only check one bag apiece. That's 208 bags that need to be loaded. Now let's say these baggage handlers can receive a bag, gently move it, and neatly stack it in just 20 seconds. That would mean it would take 2 baggage handlers 34 minutes to load or unload a plane. Remember that some airlines claim to have turnaround times of 30 minutes, and you can see why careful baggage handling just isn't practical. If you can't protect your bags' outsides, surely you can protect their insides, right? Using a nice big lock on your zips usually does the trick. Nothing can get by this, right? Nothing. Except a ballpoint pen, that is. Yeah, getting through most zippers is as simple as jabbing them with a pen and running it along the seam. Once a bag has been pilfered, the zips can simply be dragged around to reseal the bag. According to the LA Times, fewer than 500 of the TSA's 150,000 employees were arrested for theft between 2001 and 2011, or just 0.3%. However, those were just the employees who got caught. Even going by those odds though, you're way more likely to have your bags handled by a TSA thief than getting into a plane accident. One convicted TSA worker claimed there was a culture of indifference at their airport, and claimed to have pilfered over $800,000 worth of passenger goods over a 4-year period, and I thought YouTube was easy money. So next time you fly, remember, select your seats 23A carefully, and if you hear knocking from above, that's just flight attendants in their secret sleep pods catching some Z's before serving your next round of drinks. If you found these insider tips helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more travel secrets. I'm already collecting even more shocking flight attendant confessions for part 2. Comment Sky Secrets below if you want to see what really happens during turbulence and why we sometimes lie about those minor technical difficulties. Until then, safe travels, and remember, we see everything you do on board.